Hello, and welcome back to another episode of All About Balance. Today, I am joined by Harvey Marshall. Harvey, how's it going, my friend?
It's all right. Yeah, thanks for having me on. A little bit nervous, but
That's absolutely
great
fine.
to finally get on.
Look, I mean, yeah, I should probably make a public apology in advance, and that's that we've been trying to get this done for God knows how long, and for various reasons, I just have been falling over my own feet. But here we are. We're here. You are here, and I'm very grateful for your time. Absolutely, I understand the nerves. I am equally as nervous pretty much every episode that I do, right? And I'm now, I don't know, 60 hours deep at this point, right? So,
Yeah.
like it doesn't get any easier. If it helps you, it doesn't get any easier. So yeah, I have, but look, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But yeah, you off air, you were just telling me that you've gone back to your job, your actual job, for the first
Yeah,
time
yeah.
today in the office. How was that? How was the experience?
Um, it was, I guess, talking on like for me, it didn't feel too strange. I think the way I dealt with the whole situation is around COVID is I've not been too panicked as long as I have followed some of the guidelines. The place that I work for has been really good at setting up some good guidelines and stuff, and it's all been optional. So I've gone back into the office, but the rest of the staff there, it's down to them. But I just needed a change of scenery. Being locked up in the house and at a small desk for so long, it felt like the right time to go back and uh, kind of just be a bit more productive, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that's the question I was going to ask you, right? Is why go back? Like, why would you go back to the office?
I could see myself stalling. I mean, I'm quite a, I don't know what the best words to describe it, but I'm easily distracted, but by myself. I mean, I see
That's called
something,
being a human, I think.
yeah. But yeah, I just go down rabbit holes and I'll be working a bit, but then I see something and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna rabbit hole down this complete segment, and suddenly I've been scrolling through a TikTok. I'm not afraid to admit that I get lost in that app a lot. Yeah, so I felt, let's go back and get a bit of routine going, because I think routine's important, and I'd kind of been losing that. So, and I recently moved house, so it's like,
Oh,
okay, I'm gonna go
congratulations.
test the drive. I'm gonna go test the drive to the workplace. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, did you move into something that you own now? Is that, or are you moving? What's the situation?
Yeah, it's an owned house, a new build. We're supposed to move kind of before lockdown. Thank you. Um, but it all got delayed a bit, and then
Of course,
luckily we
yeah.
managed to move during May. So not too far into lockdown, but yeah, managed to get it all sorted and all set up now.
Yeah, because there was some weird regulations about, people couldn't move if you'd lived, if somebody had lived in the property for God knows, like a certain amount of time, and then you had to have it certain amount of cleaned, and there was certifications and this and that and the next thing, right? So, but yeah, I mean, a phenomenal achievement, right? Like
Yeah, thank you.
21 owning your own house, like
Yeah,
that's pretty fucking impressive, right? I think not many people can put their name to that. So yeah, that's absolutely something you should be proud of.
thank you, man.
Talking of segments and rabbit holes, like what other than TikTok, what would you rabbit hole into if you didn't have to go to the office?
So we were speaking about it before the call started, but I have a bit of a side business where I customize trainers and sneakers. So there was a period of time only a few weeks ago where I got just a mass amount of orders for kind of like, well, it was just when I started because it's very recent. And a designer I had come out with um, putting the Louis Vuitton pattern onto these Nike Air Forces, and I got like 16 orders in a week.
Jesus Christ.
Uh, yeah, there were a few days where very little work was done and a lot of painting was done, and just stuff around that. Like I was really just trying to grow it, so coming up with new design ideas, trying to practice just my artistic skills, doing a bit of drawing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean that obviously, I mean I don't know whether we even mentioned what you do as a job, but you're a UX designer, right?
Yeah.
So for people that have no idea what that means, what does that mean?
So user experience design is It's always hard. It's not the look. It's not the look of something. It's how it's put together and the hierarchy and the layout of all the information you see on an app or a website. So it makes the app or website intuitive and simple to understand. I guess the best way to use it is there will have been some experiences where you say you're trying to fill in a form and it's just so disruptive and you're getting annoyed because say you've got to fill this in, but it doesn't tell you that it's required. So you get to the bottom and then you go back to the top. So it's all layout and hierarchy and basically making it so you go to a website or an app and it just seems natural to you. Like you know where to go without being told. And there's a lot of stuff that goes in behind there, like psychological principles about how people's mind work and what they get drawn to. You know, and then so there's that side about making it easy for customers, and then this side for like ads and products. You know, how can we design this so it makes you want to buy it more, and it makes it easy for you to buy it. So yeah, it's just all about designing experiences rather than the look of a website.
So how did you start? How did you get into UX? Because I mean, this is an absolutely fascinating topic for me personally, right?
So at the company I'd worked at, I started off answering phones in a contact center. And then I noticed that there was a junior role for something called a business analyst, kind of like a segue between people who know what they want and people like computer programmers and so forth. That's a business analyst role without getting too deep into it. And then just on my own, I've always been playing with stuff like Photoshop and Illustrator, all graphic design tools and stuff like that. And just going through a course on Udemy about web design and stuff like that. Someone had seen loads of mentions of UX, and I was like, oh, okay, I've heard of this in the place I work, but what really is it? And just started doing my own research. And then I contacted someone in the UX team where I work, and I was like, I'm really interested. You know, would you teach me? Kind of a mentorship. And that carried on for a few months, and then they offered me like a secondment. You know, come try it for 3 months. If we think you're any good, you can stay. And yeah, those 3 months turned out to go well.
Beautiful. I mean, I think that that's something that's really, really prominent in a lot of the social media that we look at and spend our time in. Like you mentioned TikTok, right?
Yeah.
No, I've never used TikTok, but I will absolutely get lost in Instagram, or I'd absolutely get lost in Twitter, or I'd absolutely get lost in YouTube, you know, any day of the week, right? And I think that, you know, the things that you touched on, the psychological profiling and principles, and the building of an app to make it feel natural to you and to make it feel almost like something that you don't even like, it's not new, it's just there and it's always been there, is something that's so fascinating. Like, do you think that it's a positive thing or a negative thing that apps are built like that?
It can be positive in some senses because I mean we're always another aspect I mentioned is like accessibility. When designing apps, that's a big thing. So apps and websites have never been more accessible to people with
True.
any like visual disabilities or so forth, or learning disabilities. But I do think that on the consumerism side, it's never been easier to spend all your money without ever going to a shop. And yeah, and we even see, I've noticed that even bridging into real life. So for example, Amazon, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but they're looking at opening stores where you don't have to take any cash inside. It would be debited to your account.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, so I think they're even conquering the whole section of people who are like, oh, I enjoy going to the high street, I enjoy looking at the item I want to buy. They're suddenly conquering those guys and converting those guys. And, you know, it's no wonder that Jeff Bezos is worth, you know, 500 billion or whatever he's worth.
Yeah. A ridiculous sum of money, right?
Exactly.
But I think, and I just think that this is so interesting, is it's like, you're right. There are twofold arguments, and obviously we've touched on the extremes essentially of both of them, and that's that, you know, the internet let's just say, has never been, or data content has never been more accessible to those that would struggle to access it normally, those that are physically or visually impaired or whatever it is, right? You know, YouTube can work for these people. You have Siri, you have these things, you have the next thing, and they will allow people to experience the internet in a similar way to those that don't have those impairments to. But then on the other side is you're essentially looking at hyper consumerism, right? From the notion of getting a DM or a like on Instagram, and that little endorphin hit that you get when that red pops up, and you just want that more. And then, you know, the app is balanced. It feels like it's balanced towards gaining more following, gaining almost like a game, right? The same on Twitter. And then there's the talk of balance ratio, your follower to following ratio, and then you have YouTube, and you have subscribers, and you have thumbnails, and it just gets so deep, right? Like, how cognitive are you of that when you're designing this stuff?
Oh, all the time. You know, we look at it all the time. We look at competitors and what they're doing, and what's successful. And it's the thing you were touching on about all these kind of, you know, like the likes. You see that a lot of the popular apps and websites now are all built around this same model. It's almost provide us with content instead of money in return for this intangible kind of response from people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're looking at Instagram, it's subscribers, comments, likes on your video. Instagram, comments, likes, followers. TikTok, likes, followers, shares, you know, watches. And though they've got different clothing on these apps, they're all built off the same model. It's you know, and it's quite clever because, you know, other websites, they provide the content, you know, like shops, they have to provide the content. This is something that is actually fueled by users. And if nobody used TikTok and put videos on there, it wouldn't be so successful. But it's what people are getting back from it. I mean, you're exactly right about, you know, you wake up, you know, you upload a photo on Instagram, you put your phone down for 15 minutes. There's nothing better than looking back and seeing that there's a few people that have seen your photo and gone, oh yeah, I'll give that a like, or I'll give that a comment. And you really feel like, oh, okay, that's achieved something for me. But in the long run, you're thinking, oh, well, what has it, you know? But the people who have taken that for their gain, I mean, there's whole people who make a living from Instagram, which is insane because I have no idea how to leverage something like that for myself. But I think the people who can, it's yeah, they're the people who in the future are going to be the top 1%, really, I think.
I think so too. And I mean, I think there's obviously slightly different demographics to everyone that can make a living out of Instagram, but because Instagram is such it's wide in its sense that you have the ability to post whatever you want, essentially, like within some guidelines, but basically whatever you want, right? And then in the same vein, there's a very set niche of things that will get you mad likes, mad shares, mad retweets, whatever you want to call it, right? And the people like Instagram posted the other day about the sponsorships or the sponsor payouts that they make for certain people. Like Kim Kardashian is something like $390,000 per Instagram post.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I
What?
know, yeah.
I'm sorry. No, that doesn't make any sense. Let's talk about that, right? Like, what the fuck? How do you get $360,000 or $90,000 for posting a picture on Instagram? Like, that's crazy to me, right? But the point that you were making before that I think was really powerful is this, the content that's on these apps are built by the same people that are selling and purchasing the same content, right? Instagram does nothing, really. It doesn't build anything. It doesn't build any content. It doesn't put anything out. It doesn't make things more enriching for the user. It just proliferates ads and what's already popular, right? And this is all done through algorithms, and it's all done behind the closed doors. And obviously there are a huge team at Instagram, I'm sure, and a huge team at Twitter, and a huge team at Facebook, and whatever else, right? Even though they're kind of the same thing, but whatever. It's like, you know, what people seem to forget, and you made such a beautiful analogy. It's like the currency of today is just as intangible as the digital currency that Amazon are asking you to pay with when you go into their cashless and paymentless shops. But instead, that currency is endorphins, and that currency is time, right? And that's now what's being sold, because the content itself, when you upload it, you relinquish the ownership of that, and that ownership is now with Facebook, owner of Instagram, and they can sell that, and they can publish ads to you based on the algorithms that read your photos and everything else. And I mean, do you think that's right, or do you just think that's the natural evolution of things?
I think it's kind of like the natural evolution. I mean, you'd be a fool if you were these companies not to, because that's how else are they going to make their money? I mean, if I didn't get ads that were targeted for me, I'd probably ignore them straight away. And don't get me wrong, I ignore a lot of them, but there's some of them that are so niche because they've picked out through the artificial intelligence and the machine learning that these apps use. That okay, this guy wants this. He's been looking at it several times. His posts mention this kind of thing. He's into this kind of thing. Yeah, I think they'd be a fool not to. I think there's a line somewhere, and I don't think they've crossed it yet. But they may do in the future. But I definitely think they'd be dumb not to capitalize on this information and this that they're getting from users.
So the only thing I would argue with is I personally do think they've crossed the line in some fashion. And the way that I think they've crossed the line is, although it's done consensually, quote unquote, it's, for instance, let's say you were sat on the sofa behind me, right? And we were having a conversation in person. We could be talking about product X, whatever it is, or genre of product X. Without having looked at your phone, you are going to get targeted ads for that thing. And that's because when you're using app X and you want to record a video, the app will make you consent to microphone use. What they don't tell you is that microphone is always on, right? So whilst you believe that you're consenting to the use of the microphone whilst in the app, what you're actually doing is consenting to the microphone use a lot of the time, right? And the iPhone, I don't really know about other phones, but the iPhone has some good security around it, but doesn't eliminate all security, right? Like if the app is written in a way that it explicitly asks for microphone use, or and you consent to it, then you've consented to it, and that's what it is. Like, but to me, that is a breach of that's crossing the line to me. That's a breach of privacy to me.
Okay. Yeah, and I get where you're coming from. I think for me, it's because though it's not, I agree with you in the sense that I think that kind of stuff is in their terms and conditions, but usually you think of something with apps for some reason, we don't get the same thing of when you're, like, even when you're downloading software, you'll always get the terms and conditions come up first and you've got to agree with them. With apps, that doesn't happen at all. And you'd have thought, I don't know, I think you're right in the sense that I think it should be more clear what's happening. But I still think I don't know, the social media Mongols of the world would nowhere near be as rich if they weren't listening all the time.
Absolutely. I mean that opens up a separate question as to do they need to be that rich, right? But that is a separate question in itself. Go on. No, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. Personally, I don't agree with that amount of wealth for any person, but I also don't know the solution to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a post on that somebody put up the other day, and it was about the world's hunger and poverty would be solved if the 15 top earners took 50% of their wage or whatever, 50% of their net worth or whatever, and gave it to these organizations, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially the notion that they were going with. And like, I both agree and disagree, right? And I agree because, of course, if the world could be free of hunger and poverty and all this sort of stuff, and everyone had a house and whatever, then that's phenomenal, right? We've conquered one of the biggest problems that faces humanity at the moment. The other thing, though, is if these people, and this is a big if, but if these people have acquired that wealth legally, and again, don't go down the rabbit hole of what legality is and how we define legality, but if we can agree that the maximum of legal exists, and we're all, for the purpose of this conversation, we're all agreeing with it, if these people have acquired their wealth legally, then I find it very hard to say that that person should have to relinquish that wealth, because then essentially what we're doing is we're saying succeed, but don't succeed too much.
Yeah.
Which I'm just not sure that I agree with that either.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I mean. That's what I was kind of getting at. As I don't know the solution, sadly. I mean, you know, I think it's more. I think these conversations are coming across because money is becoming worth more and more, and there's more money being made by people at such a rate that it seems impossible. You know, because let's be honest, 10 years ago, nobody was really having these conversations, and we still had apps like Facebook and everything 10 years ago, but nobody was saying, oh, you know, Mark Zuckerberg should give up 50% of his wealth because he didn't earn that much then. You know, and it's just the success and the way that technology has grown and the economy has kind of grown in that area that somehow he is now this centi-billionaire.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you've touched on there, that this economy, right? Because actually, I'll offer a different point, and I think that the abundance of money has actually devalued money a little bit. I think that instead of, because before, if you had, I mean, okay, let me break that down slightly. Like of course, to be at the level of Bezos, Zuckerberg, etc., Musk, these sorts of people, that's unbelievably difficult, right? And also unbelievably rare, in that there's only like 3 people in the whole world that are at that level, right? But then the amount of millionaires in comparison to what millionaires were 10 years ago, as you said, is probably, I don't know the stats, but probably a lot higher than it was, right? So I think the access to money and the revenue stream of the new economy of social media and technology, and the ability to gain revenue through that medium is growing. But I think, though, that there can't be one thing without the other. So if social media content revenue grows or technology revenue grows, then the physical revenue dies, right? And as you said, oh, the people that like to go to shops are being conquered. Yeah, they're being conquered by tech, right? So the tech giants are saying to Primark, whatever, Whole Foods, Asda, Tesco, whatever, like, yeah, that's a really cool physical store where you go around the shop and you put it in a bag and then you tap and everything works. Like, yeah, we're going to fuck that off and we're going to do it this way now. And if you don't catch up, it's over, right?
Yep.
And then you're going to see these multinational, what were conglomerates, right? Like imagine the UK without Tesco. Like, what the fuck? It'd be weird, right? Imagine the UK with Asda or Sainsbury's or Morrison's, right? Like, you know, these multinational conglomerate corporations will cease to exist, right? And that's the subsidy of what happens. So I'm not so sure that it's money is more valuable. I just think that there's a new revenue for money. It's like the gold mine, the gold rush, right? When gold became popular, everyone was like, cool, we're just going to do gold. And it feels similar to me now in that the tech race is the new thing.
Yeah.
And obviously you work a 9 to 5 in tech, so you're well aware of this, and I work a 9 to 5 in tech, and I'm well aware of this too, right? So yeah, I mean, do you see any stabilizing of this, or do you just think it keeps going?
I don't know. At the minute, I'd say it keeps going. I can't see an end. Unfortunately.
Why, unfortunately?
I don't know. I think it'd be. I don't know. I think you need a balance, and I think it's slowly taking over. Well, I say slowly. I think people have known it's taking over for a long time. I think one of the best ones that I always hear is like parents and the older generation saying that like kids don't play out anymore. And like when I was a bit younger, I thought, I kind of dismissed that, and I was like, I go out, I'm a kid, I go out and see my mates all the time. But it's now how technology is integrating with that kind of stuff. I mean, just look at it now. It's like the Weatherspoons app. Like that was invented before COVID. A couple of years ago, this kind of table service thing, and other restaurants used it. But in this time, in this climate, if they manage to perfect something like that, and just knowing that Weatherspoons is this type of company, as we saw, that likes to try and save money, how do we know that in the future that isn't just the staple for Weatherspoons? So like I say about conquering the people who like to go to shops, we've suddenly conquered the people who like to go to their local spoons. And it just keeps on growing and growing until I had seen this video on Channel 4, which I think is great, by the way. I'm going to tell you this story, and I think it's great. There's a cafe in Japan that has robot waiters, but these robot waiters are piloted by people with severe disabilities who can't leave their homes. So it's providing jobs. So it's a robot waiter that doesn't speak in a robotic voice or anything that, it is connected to a microphone in the home of the person who's piloting it. And I thought that was great. They're earning a wage, they're getting to communicate with people outside of their own home. They give someone something to get up in the morning, meet new people and all this kind of stuff. But it's suddenly conquered, the working area. And how long before people go, oh, I'd like to do it. I know I'm not disabled, but I'd love to do that. I'd love to stay at home and get all the chores done around the house as well as earning a wage. So I just think slowly they find ways of just integrating into everything, where suddenly, even if you were a kid who played out all the time, technology is a massive part of that somehow.
That is a beautiful story, actually. That is a really, really beautiful story because, and I'm not surprised it came from Japan either, to be truly honest with you. But like, your point is really valid. And actually, I think I'm just going to go back to the Weatherspoons thing. Like, I think that's going to be the way that all restaurants operate from now on, to be truly honest with you. I went to Nando's for the first time on the weekend, and before you go in the door, you scan a QR code on the door, you fill in your details, you join a virtual queue, you wait outside. They then pull you in, you're given a table. On the table, QR code, scan the QR code, order your food, put your table number in, pay for the food, food's brought to you, done. Like, sure, it's efficient, but it's efficient at what cost, right? Now, to me personally, one of the beautiful things about going out for a meal, and whether it's fucking Nando's or a Michelin star restaurant, it doesn't really matter, is the experience, right? And I think that the tech experience, whilst, for the first part is cool, right? You go and you're like, oh, QR code, cool. You scan it. What happens? And you see it and it's, oh, that's cool. And then, it's a novel experience. I think it won't replace, at least not for me, it won't replace the experience of human interaction and the rapport that you get with a waitress. And I think that thing that you mentioned about in the Japanese cafes, that's a beautiful medium, right? That's one example of tech solving a problem that, in my opinion, needs to be solved, right? Tech, like Amazon doing the paymentless shops, I don't understand. Why do we need that? I don't see it. Right? And they're like, oh, it's efficient. It's no queues. It's no this. It's no that. Yeah, fine. I get that. But for people other than Bezos, what I find really interesting about Musk, and I don't know if this is the same with Bezos, but Musk plans his day in 5-minute increments. Imagine.
I know, yeah.
5-minute fucking increments.
Yeah, it would not happen for me, certainly.
I doubt he gets lost in TikTok anytime soon, right?
Exactly, yeah. He's got to book in some time for that.
He should do. At least a double booking of 10 minutes for TikTok has to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on. No, go on. Sorry, you're about to say something.
No, just laughing.
Like, yeah, I think that tech offers an ability to solve a lot of problems that that should be solved. And obviously, this is my opinion of what should, right? Bezos wouldn't be making paymentless shops if he didn't think it should happen, right? But it's the intent behind the should. And to me, the intent behind the should is what will enrich people's lives and give people an opportunity to interact with other humans instead of what's going to take away from what we used to determine to be human experience. And yeah, I don't know is the answer.
Yeah, I think it's very up in the air topic. But like I say, I personally don't see it ending. But I agree with you that there's some places that I don't think, well, some ideas like this Amazon shop that I don't actually see the driver behind it, except from monetary gain by saving money. You know, I think it takes away opportunities. I get it's efficient, and I get, but I hate when people use examples like this of, oh, this is the future. Well, why is it the future? I mean, 10 years ago, you could have said that, but going to the shops and seeing your cashier is still our present. And to be honest, I hope it's the present for a long time.
I doubt it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that way, but, like you say, it's experience, I know some people can be introverted and they don't speak to people that work around stuff, but I do. Like, I went to a TGI Fridays on Sunday, and I had a nice conversation and I laughed with the waitress, and there's always people you can always have conversations everywhere, and that helps some people, especially those chatty people. You meet people who say, "Oh, I've got to chat to someone." Well, what would they do, and how miserable would their lives be if they didn't get to see as many people all the time?
Yeah, and I think that because the tech answer for that would be some form of VR chat room or some form of VR outing or whatever. Like it would not shock me too much if in 15, 20 years you going out to a TGI Fridays and sitting down and having a conversation with a waitress is all virtual.
Quite
Wouldn't
possibly,
surprise
yeah.
me. It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me that, when you order a Domino's, right? And there's that fucking stupid robot tracker thing that tells you at what stage a pizza is. It would not surprise me if when you order a takeaway from TGI Fridays, you put a headset on, you order it through the TGI app, right? And then it plays you an experience. And that experience is you waiting for the food to be delivered to your house. And then when the food is delivered to your house, you can then have an option to put the TGI Fridays app VR experience back on your head, and you can look around the shop, or you can just fucking eat your food and consume some other bullshit content that you want to push down your throat. Like, it would not surprise me in the slightest. And in the same vein, like if you wanted to invite your mates,
yeah,
you could do that.
it'd be like, have you ever seen Ready Player One?
I've not seen it, but so many fucking people have told me to.
Yeah. So that's kind of like expands on what you're saying. So I think what you're saying is very possible in the future, but it'd expand much further than restaurants. Say if you just wanted to hang out with your mates. I mean, in this time, it'd been great in COVID. Could you imagine if you could set up a virtual reality meet with your friends, but have it set in the world of Jurassic Park? You could walk around like you're at a real Jurassic Park, and experience that. And it was all from your living room or your bedroom. You didn't even have to get up and get dressed.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe this is dystopian, I don't know, but I feel like the way that we are going, and maybe this is okay, let me put this to you and I'll get your opinion, right? The way that I feel like this is going with the lack of legislation that we have around the abilities of tech, I can see a very prominent future where people are given houses, or they earn the money to buy a house or a room, not even necessarily a house, but a room. And in that room will be the means for you to survive. There'll be running water, there'll be a toilet, a shower, and a bed, right? And probably, maybe, potentially a desk if you're really lucky, right? Everything else will be done through some form of device, whether it be a phone, a VR headset, a TV, a laptop, a PC. And that will be work, whatever that looks like, play, whatever that looks like, exercise, if that even exists anymore in the physical realm, food, everything will be consumed from that room. And I think eventually, when it gets to that point, we will we will be only half a step away from uploading consciousness, or what it is to be conscious, into the world of AI, into the world of tech, and the physical form will cease to be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. I don't know, certainly don't know the time scale,
Me
but
neither, but
yeah, I certainly agree with you, and it seems quite bleak when described that. But I imagine when it first gets introduced, all this VR stuff, everyone will think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
of course, and there's something to that, and I think the thing that what really upsets me the most, I think, about the way that consumerist tech is marketed is efficiency. What's determined to be efficiency is actually pulling at one of the most treacherous strings that is still available in the human condition, and that's laziness, essentially. And the phrase is the path of least resistance. People will always look to the path of least resistance. Well, how little resistance would you need if you literally sat forever?
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I think, is worrying, but in the same vein would be so marketable. Because like you said, right, this VR headset, all Amazon has to do is be like, oh, so you want to fight Mike Tyson
And win.
and win? Do you want
Yeah.
to keep fighting Mike Tyson until he loses? Do you want to turn into Conor McGregor for a day? Do you want to see what it's like to be Jeff Bezos for a day? Do you want to see how the world began? You want to see how the
Yeah.
world ends? You want to play basketball like Michael Jordan? You want to climb Mount Everest in 15 minutes?
Mm. Yeah. It's limitless, and like you say, I think especially when it gets marketed like that, if it becomes a reality, it's the kind of the steady decline into that dystopian future that you were describing.
Yeah, and then I think the even crazier thing than that is, or the more worrying thing than that is, then the idea of government kind of ceases to exist as well, because what's the point in having a government body that mandates laws and passes through bills if you're owned by a tech company, right?
Yeah. Or it continues to exist as a governing body, but is just owned, you know. And I'm sure there's a few conspiracy theories out there that says people like that own the government already. But yeah, I can imagine something similar. Or the tech company becomes the governing body. You know, they're governing what you see all the time.
Well,
You
this
know,
is kind of my point, right?
yeah,
Is that now there is somewhat of an illusion of free will, right? You, for instance, were able to pick the house that you bought, right, and you moved into. That was your choice. Whatever, it was your choice to put the trainers that you've got behind you. It was the choice to put the light there behind you. It was the choice to sit in the room you're sitting in. Whereas, think about how crazy niche targeted ads are now, right? And let me go full fucking down the rabbit hole here. Like, if anyone has followed Musk, then he's talked about this. Oh Jesus, how the fuck have I forgotten it? Do you know what the chip that he's looking at putting in people's brain is? Neuralink.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Neuralink. Yeah.
yeah,
So imagine, right? Imagine we're in a scenario now where we're confined to this one room. We've got a VR headset on and we've got Neuralink stuck in our head, right? That's essentially an active feed to the thoughts that we have, right? And a replica could be made of the thoughts that we have, and then the targeted advertising would be insane. It's like, oh, he's going to be hungry in 15 minutes. Let's start targeting food to him now. Oh, he's going to be tired. Let's target at this. Oh, he's cold. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll do the next thing. Like, Jesus Christ, it really is limitless. And then it does really cease. It feels like then at that point, the machine learning, the AI algorithms, because they have such vast access to the way that cognitive construction happens, it would not be long until it could be repeated.
well, yeah, I completely agree. And what you were mentioning about, you know, like the example you used about knowing when people are hungry. I mean, I know a bit about behaviors and stuff, and it'll get to a point where they control when you're hungry.
Yes.
They control when you want to watch a movie. All it takes is, a few months of flashing up an advert, and eventually you'll start to get hungry about that time that advert usually comes up.
That's fucking nuts, right?
I know it's insane. Yeah, I just think it's a scary future. And like I think what you mentioned just a bit earlier about the legislation, I think there's a possibility that it could get stopped. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, 2019, I never imagined I'd be locked in my house for 5 months with very little to do. But yeah, you never know. There's a small bit of hope there. I think a small bit of hope, but it does seem very likely that we are going to go down this kind of journey that there might be no return from.
Yeah, and the wacky stipend that I'll add to that theory is that I kind of feel like that's the way it was meant to be. Like, I kind of feel like humans, whether consciously or unconsciously, have been and are building the next evolution of humans. And that will
Yeah,
be, I don't necessarily believe it will be this ultra sentient Ultron type being, and we'll create an AI transformer overlord. I'm not necessarily sure it'll look like that, but something similar.
yeah.
Yeah. You touched on the conspiracies before. I like to ask this question just because it's fun, but give me your favorite conspiracy theory. If this is a true test of whether you're a rabbit holer or not.
See, yeah, not rabbit hole in the sense of the thing, because I don't really call it a conspiracy theory. I mean, for
Neither
me, it's
conspiracy theorists, right? So
yeah,
hit me with it.
just the whole. I know it's only coming to light, but I believe for a long time the elite of this world, you know, I don't think certain areas of the government are actually controlled by those people we see in Parliament. I mean, Boris Johnson is just an example of that. I mean, makes some stupid decisions, but I can't imagine that he's the mastermind behind all this stuff. So it's kind of that, I think there is certain amounts of elite people across the world that have major influence over our government. And the whole stuff coming out about Jeffrey Epstein, I think that ties into that. These kind of elite people that can do whatever they want because they're of certain status, and I think it's quite scary that it kind of gets left in the background in the media. I mean, some of the evidence that even the media themselves have brought out, and then it's just been forgotten. I mean, are we just going to sit by and not act on the fact that there is this genuine possible island where young girls were trafficked to for the elite people of the world? It's just mad. It seems like something out of a movie. And I think I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I got really frustrated the other day that this stuff is going on, and nobody seems to be going let's hold on a minute, let's sort this out. Who are these people? Yeah, it's just so there you go. That's the one.
Yeah, and I mean, in answer to your question, are we just going to sit here and let it happen? Yes, is the short answer. Yes, we are. Yeah, because in the case of Epstein, I mean, there's the meme hashtag now, which is like Epstein didn't kill himself, right?
Yeah.
Of all the coroner's reports and everything that I've read, it's fucking obvious to me, anyway, as a stupid person, that Jeffrey Epstein very likely did not kill himself, right?
Exactly.
And the excuses that have been given of the CCTV just didn't work that day, and the guys on shift just forgot what happened. Oh yeah, they were asleep on the job, and we're not going to sack them because it's fine. These things happen, and the sort of there does seem to be a level of ignorance to what we determine to be rules and what other people determine to be rules. I think the argument that's often touted about the idea of this elite that are above every other person is that people must know and people must talk, right? But the Pentagon recently released they basically confirmed that they have hardware, they have aircraft that the way they describe it is not of this earth.
Yeah, I'd heard about this.
Yeah, and I've read a couple. There's only a very few articles that actually reference what was said, right? And some of those by the New York Times and whatever. And this relates back to the whole Bob Lazar thing about how he was saying that he saw that stuff and related that stuff and whatever. And it's like the news cycle is so fast and it is so manipulated and so controlled that thing can come out and then is gone within 48 hours. Because it's replaced by the next thing, the Lebanon attacks, this, that, the next thing. Like something else happens that just drags people's attention in a far more visceral way than, oh yeah, by the way, aliens are real. Forgot to tell you. Like imagine 50 years ago if the Pentagon on the front of every newspaper said, oh yeah, by the way, aliens are real. We've got some spacecraft, right? Oh. Sorry, what?
Yeah, tell us more.
Exactly, and it would be the discovery of the century, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Whereas in 2020 we found out that there's this potential island. There's this vast network of politicians and celebrities and influential people that have been to this island. What they engaged on in that island, we do not know, and probably will never know the full extent of, but it's very probable it was some nefarious shit, right? And then the man that was supposed to be, involved in all of this, the ringleader of all of this, and I think that's bullshit as well. Like the way that they've made out that Epstein was the only person, like the one, he's basically like the ring from Lord of the Rings, right? Like he's the one guy. No way.
Yeah.
There's probably multiple Jeffrey Epsteins, right? Multiple. Yeah. There has to be, surely. It can't just be one dude, right? And obviously, he happened to not be alive anymore. I'll be interested to see what happens with Ghislaine Maxwell, to see what comes out of her trial.
Well, did you see all the stuff that happened to the judge for her trial?
No, go on. Jesus, here we go.
I believe in. I'll confirm this to you later. I'll get up an article, but I'm pretty sure her husband. So the first judge who was appointed to her trial, her husband was shot by a man disguised as a FedEx driver, and if that doesn't scream like paid hit, other than anything else, and then I believe her son his life has been threatened in some form.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. It's so difficult, right? And if Ghislaine Maxwell even gets to a position, because we don't even know if she's going to speak, right? She doesn't know. We don't know if she's going to make it to trial. We don't know if when she gets to trial whether she'll actually say anything of use. You've no idea, right? You've just no idea. Fuck. I don't know. I just don't know. And it's this stuff that's the most upsetting, I think. Well, the other thing I was going to add to that Ghislaine Maxwell thing is what was really scary. And again, this is conspiracy shit. This could be absolutely nothing to do with it. But there was, during the Madeleine McCann case, there was a British tourist that went to the police very soon after Madeleine went missing. He was in some hotel near Praia de Luz, some swanky hotel. And he was in the lobby, and a lady rushed up to him looking very flustered and sort of ran up to him and was like, do you have her? Do you have the girl? Do you have Madeleine? And this guy did one of those, like when you describe somebody and they draw out a caricature.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks exactly like Ghislaine Maxwell.
I've not read that, but that is that's a total rabbit hole. But yeah,
when I read it, I was like, I'm just gonna close this page down. Like I can't be dealing with this shit. Like I just can't be dealing with this shit.
But that's just the internet now. Like information's coming at you so fast, and it's so easy to access information that I think a lot of people, you don't know whether to believe it's true. I certainly read something now, and I always do a double take. But there's some people who read it, and because they don't want to spend the time looking through all the masses of information relating to that same thing, they just believe the first thing they read.
Yeah.
But anything I read, I just take with a pinch of salt now.
Yeah, because I mean, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, right? Is you've got you're in the information and disinformation age, because it's so like we learned with Cambridge Analytica that information can be created and manipulated in a fashion that will very easily manipulate people that want to be manipulated, want to be swayed in a certain way. And, you know, to me, newspapers aren't a thing anymore. Twitter is the newspaper.
Oh
You
yeah.
open up Twitter, and if there's a topic, you've got people commenting on it, and you've got people linking articles and sources and this and that and the next thing, right? And I have this argument with one of my friends all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, I found this is what's happening," and I'm like, "Where did you read it?" They're like, "Twitter," and I'm like, right. I mean, let me just stop you there, right? Because they're like, it's a credible source. I'm like, but is it a credible source, right? Like, how do you even know that it's a real person that's written it, right? You just don't. Like, you just don't. And you know, I agree with you that all of this stuff that we say and all of this stuff that we read, we have absolutely no idea whether it's credible or not. And to me, this kind of does, if I had to put my tinfoil hat on, like, this does lead to me sort of being somewhat in line with your thoughts of, if you were somebody, let's say you woke up tomorrow morning and you had the money and the power and the influence of Jeff Bezos, right? For one, your trainer company would become a lot larger overnight, right? And you'd need a lot more paintbrushes than you have right now. But, you know, there may be some things that you would like to deter, right? Some other people that do a similar role to you, maybe you don't want them to be of the same competition level that, you know, that they are right now. How do you do that? Well, you know, maybe we put some disinformation out there. Maybe we create 10,000 Twitter accounts that just happen to spread that disinformation, and all of a sudden that company goes bust. Shit. Who's to say that that's not the same, right? Like, who's to say some of the stuff that comes out about Trump or Hillary, like the political campaigns are the ones that you watch the most, right? Because some of the shit that's going to come out is almost certainly going to be bullshit, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we've certainly gone down a rabbit hole, and I do want to drag it back to your trainer company. Like, at the very start of this, at the very start of this segment, I was like, let me try and work in the trainer company slightly. And I was like, okay, now we've got to political campaigns and disinformation. Like, let me drag that back. Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the trainer company, and obviously, it seems like a really natural shift in a way, because to me, although me as a tech guy, I don't really have too much of a creative side. Like, you as a UX engineer absolutely have to have both, right? You have to have the logical understanding of how a computer works, but you also have the creative side of, well, what looks good, what feels good, right? How did you go from UX design to customizing trainers?
Yeah, well, it's pretty fresh in my mind because, like I say, it's a new business really.
And what's the business called?
At the minute, it's HM Sneakers and Customs.
And where can people find that?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and how do they find you on Instagram and Facebook? I'm asking for a plug.
So guys, go follow me on Instagram at hm.sneakersandcustoms. Same name for Facebook. You can order from me through DMs, also through PayPal goods and services until I get my own website up and running.
Perfect. I'll tag all the
yeah,
Instagram
no worries.
and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Carry on.
Yeah, so basically, I'd seen it a lot. It's not something that's new, but I think it's something that was a niche. But I've always enjoyed, you know, a bit of fashion. You know, I won't lie saying I'm materialistic. You know, I don't go over the top, but there's certain things that I'm like, yeah, I want them, and shoes has always been one of them. You know, bright colours, nice shoes, and all this kind of stuff. And I was just sat really bored, you know, over lockdown, and I was like, okay. At first, I was like, I'm going to start learning to draw because I'm okay at sketching and never been much of a fine artist or anything like that. And I was like, okay, I'll start drawing a bit more. Start drawing, and then I came across just an image of some shoes, Nike Air Force Ones with a Louis Vuitton pattern on them, and I was like, okay, I could do that. Had a looked on YouTube. There's loads of resources on how you do it. Looked at the products I needed and decided, okay, I'll do it. I'll do my own. Did my own. Put photos on Snapchat of my own personal ones and all this kind of stuff. You know, just just had a massive response of, oh my God, I'd want these, oh my God, would you do them in different colors? These look amazing, kind of thing. Those really nice on your feet, all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. And I kind of started getting my first orders through. So I brought up my own Instagram page, and just started getting some orders through. Yeah, I mean, at the minute, it's really strange because I've only done this one design, this one Louis Vuitton design. And I mean, the aim for me really is I'd love to have people come to me for like custom commissions. I'd love to create something that's one-off. I mean, I don't mind obviously doing this other stuff. It's quite fun and fulfilling and so forth. But I think what I'd really like is someone to come to me with an idea that nobody's ever done before. I had a guy when I was buying some shoes in JD Sport. He's never come back to me with like, oh my God, I'd love some Pikachus on the side of them. And I'm a bit of a nerd myself. I was like, yes, you come to me and I will paint some Pikachus on the side of your shoes. No problems asked. I'll make them look sick. There will be lightning all over them. Sadly, it hasn't come back to me, but
if you're listening to this podcast, fucking get in touch right
exactly.
now. We need Pikachus on shoes ASAP, Rocky.
Exactly. We need some some Pokemon flavor flying about.
We do, and I think it's brilliant, really. Like, I really think it's brilliant. Like, I can't remember how we started talking, but I remember we started talking over DM, right? And then when I found the sneaker thing, I was like, yeah, this is really fucking cool. Like, really, really cool. I think it's cool because, as you say, it's not new. It's not new. People have done this for a while. And actually, this goes all the way back to like skate culture, right? Where old skaters would get their Vans and they just draw on them. They just draw on them for shits and giggles, or they get their mates to sign them, or they, put places that they've skated, and this kind of stuff just happens, right? It happens. People customize their shit, but I think to do it professionally and to do it in a way that's clean and to do it in a way that's accessible to people and to do it in a way that engages with the people is very, very different. And I think you're right. I mean, obviously the Louis Vuitton order, like it's that Air Force One, which is such an iconic trainer. For me that knows fucking nothing about trainers, I know that Air Force Ones are really iconic. And I know that Louis Vuitton is obviously a luxury brand, but it's in that mid-tier where it's kind of luxury, but it's affordable enough that it's not super crazy. And when you put it together and you make it look good enough that it could be real, right? Like it could be an actual collaboration. People love that, right? Like people love that. And I think, I agree with you that it would be cool to see you do some custom orders. That would be really cool. I mean, explain to me the process. How does it happen? Do people send you their trainers? Do you buy trainers? What is it?
So there's several ways. I mean, it all depends on your price point. I think that touches on what you're saying about accessible. Like, the way I practice is I get my old shoes, and I mean like really beaten down shoes, and I give them a quick wash, and then I paint it. Like, if you visit my Instagram, there's an ongoing project on some Adidas Continentals, like some old kind of football casual shoes, and I've painted Bart Simpson on one and Sideshow Bob on the other. And they're shoes that I've had for like 3 years, and they're really beaten down. But like, if you send your shoes to me, no matter what they are, I'll give them a clean up, and I think that I'd enjoy that more actually than new shoes. It's kind of like giving a new lease of life, and I'm very into the whole recycling clothing thing. Like, I like to buy secondhand clothes, Depop apps like that, eBay, all that kind of stuff, vintage clothes. Or if you are wanting something new, then you can buy the trainers yourself and send them to me. Or I don't mind doing that bit of sourcing for you, because I know that some it can be hard trying to find sizes and stuff. But yeah, if you want some new shoes, I can buy them for you. You buy them, send them to me, and just get in touch. You want something that's never been done before. There's no judgment here. I think the crazier the better. The more fun I'll have doing it, and the more fun you'll have when you get them back in the post.
I agree. I think it's a phenomenal thing. The one thing I'd like to see is a YouTube channel.
Oh, see, I have. It's gonna be started on the phone. I can't afford a camera right now, but I've literally just got. I've got an order for some Burberry pattern Air Force Ones, where I'm going to be venturing into fabric and stitching onto the shoe. So dismantling the structure of the shoe and putting some fabric in there. That's going to be a tough one. And some very funky checkerboard Vans flame style ones for my friend who's turning 21 this weekend. So that's a gift. And as part of the gift, I think that's gonna be my first YouTube video. I'm gonna sit down and film the whole process. So accompanying with the trainers, the person can get a very nice time lapse of me painting the shoes for them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's important because, you know, what it will do is first it gives you credibility, right? Because people will see that it's you that's doing them. They'll see your creative process. They'll see how you get it done. They'll just see everything. And I think it also it'll show you the times when shit goes wrong. It'll tell you when stuff goes right. It will show you the trials and the tribulations that you go through. I mean, like, what phone are you using right now?
iPhone X.
Right. Like, that's got 4K 60 FPS, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be fucking fine. Trust me. Like the videos that I do of my jiu-jitsu rolls or whatever, I use the iPhone. The file sizes are massive. Don't get me wrong, but you know it is what it is. Like 4K 60 FPS. I mean, YouTube doesn't even support that, right? It only takes. I think it does 4K. Maybe I'm chatting shit. I don't know. But when I put stuff on, oh no, it definitely does. It definitely does support 4K. It definitely does. But
yeah.
you know, you can go and you can do you don't need a camera, right? Like full disclosure, I was looking for a camera to record the podcast for. Eventually, I'm going to do the podcast here behind me, right?
Yeah.
For the audio only listeners, I'm pointing to behind me. Go and check the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But you know, like the plan is to be here, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what camera do I need? Well, I found out that DSLRs have a limit to the amount we can record. It's 29 minutes and 59 seconds. Why? I don't know. Like this podcast has been going for nearly an hour, and it's like, well, we'd already have had to take a break in the conversation, start recording again, and pick up where we left off. Like, I'm not doing that shit. If I'm buying a camera that can do it, it's like $1.5 grand. I'm not doing that either. So I'm thinking I'll either just use the webcam I have or I'll just mount my phone, right? So you know, like these things are fine, and equally, like I understand because you're probably a little bit like me that you want to get as professional a shot as possible, you want to get as professional a look as possible, and you're trying to do that with spending the least amount of money possible. Use the shit you've already got, right? That'd be my advice. Use the shit you've already got. But I'd love to see a YouTube channel. If you get a YouTube channel, please let me know and we'll plug it on the Instagram and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no worries. And just this is me being very generous, but this is something I've always wanted to do. If you want some total gift, honestly, for having me on, I'd love to do some custom Nike Air Forces to sit in the podcast room for when you go in.
Mate, fucking hell. I won't let you do it for free, but I'll absolutely let you do it. Absolutely. I will definitely not let you do it for free. But yeah, we'll sort something out. I'd fucking love that. That'd be great. That would be really, really good. That would be cool. And then yeah, that would be fucking awesome. Oh my God. Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, actually, I'd be interested in you doing some balance stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we could probably do if I sort you a pair of Air Force Ones, why don't you do one side can be whatever you want it to be, and then the other side do the balance logo.
Yeah, that's fun, and don't tie yourself down to some Nike Air Forces or do anything. I mean, Converse, Vans. It's up to you, man.
Mate, it's absolutely up to you, right? You're the one that told me you want specific orders, so it's absolutely up to you.
Yeah, I just thought I'd show this off just for the YouTube listeners. This is an upcoming project.
Yeah, so for
all you Marvel fans.
For the audio only, can you describe exactly what you've just shown
there? Yeah, so this is actually just me repurposing an old pair of black Converse that I had. I cleaned them up, but it's basically, so on the high top Converse, coming in from the kind of the back tongue, it's Venom from obviously the Marvel universe. Not finished yet, but it's just an upcoming project. I'm hoping all you guys on YouTube can kind of have a good look at this and let your minds run wild and get in touch. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you want to do something, then you choose the shoe, choose the design for one. I'll shoot you over the PNG for the balance logo, and you can have a look and do what you want to do. That'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
All right, perfect. I mean, yeah. Do you have a little bit more time, or have you got to run?
Yeah, no, I've got tons of time now. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, what we'll do is I want to move on to the question that you asked before, and that's that me and you had You're gonna have to remind me how we started this. Did I put a post out on
I
Instagram
think
and
you
you
did, yeah.
responded?
I think you
Yeah,
it
something
was
like
a
that.
an ask a question, isn't it? You know, ask me a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. And I think it was something to do with how can we market jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, I think what I'd comment on is because obviously I think you put a question out of what you want to see on the podcast,
Yeah,
and that's kind of where
that's
our
right.
interaction began.
That's right. Yeah,
And
that's right.
I just put you know, I'd love to talk about how we can grow the sport
Yeah.
in the for me the UK specifically, but you know, I think a lot of the things that we'll talk about will, you know, comprehend worldwide kind of thing.
Well, go. How do we grow the sport? Tell me.
Yeah, no, I think just from my personal experience, you know, it seems something that people seem to find like football is a sport that you don't have to find, you know, it's there. You know, if someone wants to play football, it's usually because they've seen their dad watching it on the TV or seen people at the local park. Um, and it kind of finds you with their sports that are the smack bang in front of your face. And jiu-jitsu for me was something that I actually first had ever heard of in a men's health magazine that I'd bought for a plane journey to go on holiday.
All right.
And it
Interesting.
was an interview with Charlie Hunnam from Sons of
Yeah.
Anarchy.
Yeah.
And he
Charlie
was
Hunnam.
saying that, yeah, he was doing a movie with Guy Ritchie. I think it was the really bad Arthur movie, not The Gentleman.
Oh, right. Oh, The Gentleman was great.
Yeah, that's where the really bad Arthur movie, though, in my opinion. But basically, he was saying how he'd visited Guy Ritchie's house and he had some mats in there and David Beckham. I know, and the Guy Ritchie's like I think he's like a purple belt or a brown belt.
All right, cool.
He's been doing it for a long time down with who's the Gracie who lives in London now?
Which one? It's Hodger Gracie.
Hodger, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Hodger. Yeah.
Only one of the greatest of fucking all time, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Hodger, forgot your name. Yeah, I think he's been training with him in London for a long time, like 15 years or something. I think he's a brown belt, I'm not sure. But basically, like he introduced Charlie Hunnam to it, and this interview that I was reading basically got segued into Charlie Hunnam explaining to the interviewer what jiu-jitsu was and how he'd go around to Guy Ritchie's house. And I was like, oh my god, this sounds really cool. And
he's a black belt, actually. Guy Ritchie's a black belt.
Is he a black belt?
He
All right.
trains under Henzo Gracie, and
All right.
he got his black belt in 2015. There you go.
Jeez. Right. Okay. So he was already a black belt when I read that interview.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, like that was my first really like. I'm sure I'd seen it because I'd watched like UFC and stuff like that. So I'd seen it in some form, but not obviously its purest form. But I'd seen it, but never known what it was, and it was never smack back then in my face. And then obviously I found about it. I went to a trial class, and then actually I never did it again. I went to this trial class for a Gracie Barra place, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. I loved it, but I somehow didn't do it again for like 2 years. I went to like one class, and then a family friend who I had trained Taekwondo with when I was like 5 or something. He's like yeah, a lot older than me. No offense, Guy. But he was doing jiu-jitsu down at a local fitness area, you know, a hall to rent out.
Sure.
And I went along, and that's kind of like where I learned about it. And I think what we're talking about is growing the sport. It's like, this has been a long rabbit hole, but it's back to this thing of like it's like a hidden sport. It is a minority sport, you know. I love it, but it is a minority sport. And even among martial arts, like I think if I asked most of my friends, like name a few martial arts, it's all going to be like karate, kung fu, you know. And I just think we haven't got that coverage that even some other minor sports, like you don't see karate on the TV all the time, but people know what it is. And I don't know how we kind of break that barrier of like people understanding what it is and what we do. I think there's so many things that could help, you know, like some grassroots investment that I think is a long way off, because we don't really have like a national governing body in the UK for jiu-jitsu. I know we've got UK BJJ, but they're not like an official thing, and it just seems like it's going to be a long road if we were ever to market it. But I think people that you know, like I've met Liam Khan once from Scramble, and I think
Shout
like
out to Liam Khan.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a scramble tee right now.
Lad.
Yeah, I think they do an excellent job about leveraging social media, like we spoke about a lot earlier at the beginning of this podcast. Like they do a great job of marketing on there, and it's great to see, like in Leeds, that these guys are doing a really good job and connecting with people like yourself and this stuff like this podcast. But it all seems really closeted in. I think like once you step through the door of jiu-jitsu, you realize like, oh my God, there's actually so much about it and so many outlets and media outlets. But it's literally like we need to break that kind of that surface level so that this stuff is seen more mainstream.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things, right? So, I mean, first of all, where do you train?
So I train at Allegiance Combat Academy in Dewsbury and Nova Vida BJJ in Huddersfield.
Okay, fine. So, name me a superstar in your gym. Cool. That's it. That's all it needs to hear, right? Like, the thing that you're going to find is you're right that there are levels, right? Levels are media coverage, grassroots investment. It's all of these things, right? But what you need is a crossover star, right? Karate, it's Bruce Lee, it's Jackie Chan. And although, you know, Bruce Lee was actually a mixed martial artist, he did a bit of ground fighting, he did a bit of kung fu, he did a bit of everything. Jackie Chan, the same. These guys, you know, kickboxing, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? It's Steven Seagal, it's these guys. Aikido is a bullshit martial art that was made famous by some fucking random crazy Donny that now everyone believes is real, right? Like, all right, cool. Like it's crossover superstars. And in the same vein, it's also about tradition, right? Jiu-jitsu is quite young in its stature in comparison to something like karate or wrestling, right? Or judo, whatever. These are older, richer sports in their tradition. And they've been fighting mentalities, hand-to-hand fighting mentalities for a long, long time. And it makes sense, right? Like if you were in war, let's just say, in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, and it hit the deck, you're probably getting clubbed to death by something. You're not going to have much time to grab chainmail and throw up an armbar, right? Probably not going to happen. You know what I mean? Very true. Effective triangle defense then would have been a shield to the face.
Yep.
So, you know, I think that it's, whilst its popularity now is growing, right? And it's growing because you do have stars in the sport like Roger Gracie, like Marcelo Garcia, like Faraz Sahabi, like Robert Drysdale, like Gordon Ryan, who's probably the biggest one right now, like John Danaher, like Gary Tonin, these guys, Bianca Presidio, Fionn Davis, all these kinds of people that are really, they are elevating the sport and they are bringing popularity to the sport. I think the way that we grow the sport is by honest discussion about the sport, right? And by having conversations like this, by popularizing in social media, by writing articles, by getting the word out. Like there's lots of jiu-jitsu sites that do a really good idea. Jits Magazine with Roy, Attack the Back. I mean, he's massive, right? Attack the Back is massive. We've got Jiu-Jitsu Times. You name it, right? There's all these big websites that are doing great things for the sport and for martial arts just in general, right? But I think your point is valid in that it has to be hierarchical, right? So it has to start with grassroots investment. But grassroots investment isn't going to come from the government. It's going to come from us, the people that do it. So that's going to be people that are going to be opening gyms. That's going to be people that are putting on competitions like Jake Cross of Empire, like Pantheon, like Grapplefest, like Polaris, like these kinds of people, right? That are putting on competitions to allow people to do the thing that they're training for, right? And to do it on a stage. That's the first thing. The second thing is going to be regulation. Like you said, UKBJJA, they may be doing a fine job, but they're not official, right? Yet. Maybe they can get there, fine. But at the moment, it's not a recognized governing body, right? Fine. Maybe that changes, great. Then like if jiu-jitsu got into the Olympics, that would be huge, right? Huge. Can it happen? I don't know. Maybe I could probably see no-gi going into the Olympics,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
that's like a mixture of wrestling and judo, kind of, right? Like if you were going to put it in an Olympic sort of committee perspective. But I think that really the way to grow the sport is to keep doing it, really,
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
you've met Liam. Liam is a vastly important figure in the UK scene, really, really important figure for a number of reasons. The connections that man has, the work ethic that he has, the environment that he's built alongside Fred and Mike at Scramble and all the guys that teach there, like, is just beautiful. And the work that he does for other gyms, for other schools, for other programs, for other organizations is also huge, right? But Liam's not the only one. There's hundreds, tens, hundreds of those guys around the world that are doing the same thing. And I think that, by supporting those people, the sport will grow. In the same vein that football grew, in the same vein that wrestling grew, in the same vein that cricket grows, in the same vein that javelin or bobsleigh or whatever it is will grow, right? What do you think?
No, I completely agree. I think I agree with you on a lot of things, and I think, like you say, it's just. I think for me, I'm always one of these people that I love a bit of structure, and I think what you're saying is like a very small part of the structure.
Yes.
I mean, I don't imagine BJJ being like a super sport, being at the level of football. But for me, I mean, just as, like a proud advocate, I'd love to hear more people understand it and know about it. Because like I say, I think it'd be the appreciation, like people like Liam and all these people that run people stuff like Empire. It'd be like a nice to see them get the appreciation that they deserve from all the hard work. And I think they can't do it by themselves. I think it's got to be like you say, all these small things. But I think you're right in saying that it comes from the inside rather than there's not gonna be
Has to.
some government that comes along and says, here's all this money suddenly, and then suddenly we're a sport that's known, and a martial art that's known worldwide or anything, and to everyone in every household. It'd just be nice if there was a bit more structure in there, kind of, even if stuff like I think one of my big pet hates is Sky Sports. I hate Sky Sports. I
Okay.
think sorry.
No, I don't watch TV, but crack on.
Oh, Sky Sports. So they obviously they're a company and they want to make money, so they put on popular sports. But I think how much good would a TV company like that do if they had so they have all these different classifications of channels, and supposedly one of them is to it's like free to view even if you don't have Sky. It's called Sky Sports Mix, and it's just usually just like random, maybe not amazingly popular sports that they put on there to watch. And they say it's like, they use it as a way to introduce people to Sky Sports and make you want to buy it, I think. But how ace would it be to just have like some sports channel somewhere that just spent a bit of time committing to these lower end sports, more of the minority sports. I just think it'd be incredible.
No, I agree. I think you chuck an ADCC on, like,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
put Gary
Especially the
Tone,
last years.
yeah, put Gary Tone and Hanato Kanuto
Yeah,
on Sky Sports Mix and let's see what happens. Like,
definitely.
yeah, it'd be great. I think to your point, like, Sky is a business and it wants to make money. So it's going to do what's best for it to make money. And at the moment, jiu-jitsu doesn't even make money. Jiu-jitsu athletes don't make money. Like, unless you're a Gordon Ryan that has these instructionals out that, $300. And obviously loads of people buy them legally, of course. And they don't get them from nefarious means. But, these people are the people that are going to be making money. The guys that are winning ADCC. But then again, you win ADCC and you get your 50 grand. Well, then what for 2 years?
Yeah.
Then you have to dine out on seminars, you have to dine out on instructionals, you have to dine out on the smaller competitions where you may pick up a 5k check, or Third Coast Grappling may give you a 10k check for a kumite or whatever. And of course, like, that's good money, right? That's good money. But how many times and what percentage of athletes are going to win ADCC? Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Right? So the promotion of jiu-jitsu is a spherical thing. we can't just expect Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, and these people to grow the sport. It has to be the people that are 9-to-5ers like myself and you that aren't going to win an ADCC. I mean, obviously I'm talking about myself. You may go ahead and win an ADCC, who knows? But the probability says it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, like it's our job, and it's our job just as much as it's their job to tell your mates, tell your nan, tell, you know, the fella down the road, tell, to loop it all the way back around, when you go to TGI Fridays, go and tell the waitress about jiu-jitsu. I mean, you know, obviously don't be that dickhead, that stereotype dickhead that is a jiu-jitsu guy and only talks about jiu-jitsu, right? Please don't do that. You know, like I want to just, again, I'm going to say this on every podcast I have, but like there is a misconception that this podcast is a jiu-jitsu podcast. It's not a jiu-jitsu podcast. It's not supposed to be. It's not, and I don't want it to be a jiu-jitsu podcast. Jiu-jitsu is just one facet of my life. The whole point of this platform is to have interesting conversations, and I think we've done that minus the jiu-jitsu, right? So, so yeah, for people that do get to this far into the podcast and you are listening, this is not a jiu-jitsu podcast. And maybe that's how I should start each of these episodes now. Hello, welcome to All About Balance. This is not a fucking jiu-jitsu podcast. But yeah, disclaimer. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think actually, like, I don't know what the route into Sky Sports Mix is, but if you could find it, we should probably put something together, like a formal letter or something, as an application for it. Like,
yeah, I'd be happy to be involved in some kind of thing like that.
Yeah, and if anyone that's listening to this has any connection whatsoever to B Sky B, or has any, you know, connection whatsoever to the Sky Group, then let's try and find an avenue in, because, you know, even if it's just once a month, you know, like to take it to MMA, for instance, like Bellator signed a deal with Sky, right? And they were on Sky for a period of time. Now they kind of flopped it with the cards they put on Sky and whatever, and some of them fell out, and, you know, it is what it is. But imagine the UFC, they go out with all the big like Fox. They were on ESPN now. Like, ESPN is insane for something as new. 25 years, 26, 27 years old, 27 years old in 2020 is MMA, right? And for the biggest corporation of that to go out on ESPN is just insane. And like you say, if jiu-jitsu or ADCC or something was able to go out and, you know, twice a month, whatever it is, at a time that some viewers will see it, maybe people will be interested. Maybe. I mean, I have no idea whether any of the jiu-jitsu guys that I've had on this podcast have inspired anyone to walk through a gym. I doubt it, because we've been in coronavirus time, but you know, if it's stuff like this, right? And I'll repeat again, disclaimer, this is not a fucking jiu-jitsu podcast, but if somebody listens to say a conversation with you, or a conversation with Rob Drysdale like I've had, or a conversation with Liam or Tommy, or any of the jiu-jitsu guys that we've had on, like, if any of that resonates with them and they decide to take it, then that can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, every new person, not to sound cheesy, but every new person through the door is, you know, it's kind of like goal achieved.
Every new person that stays.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think, like you say, I think it all boils down to the sport will grow if it's got amazing advocates, and you don't have to do much, I think, to be an advocate. I think you just gotta, you know, within yourself, keep going training, you know, and the whole thing around being a you know, someone good to train with, because then you keep the people at your current school keep going and stuff. But also, you know, just if someone asks about it, you know, you explain it what it truly is, and you know, you, like I said, just be an excellent advocate for it, and it doesn't take much to do that.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that's probably a lovely place to leave this. Before you go, please, can you shout out anything you want to, any people you want to? You can shout out your nan, just give me the whole list, and make sure you give me Instagram profiles, all that sort of stuff.
So one place I actually forgot to mention where I train, because they were actually looking for a new place to hire out, is Manic Monkeys MMA. These guys run jiu-jitsu and striking classes off their own back. Honestly, been doing it for years. That's Guy and Andrea Farrow. They're currently looking for a new space in West Yorkshire area, Halifax, Brighouse, Rastrick, Huddersfield, all these areas. If you know anywhere that they can hire out for a decent rate, please let them know. There's a lot of people that go to their classes, and thank you to them for, you know, that's the first place I went training. So just saying thanks to those guys. And another plug to Instagram and Facebook for hm.sneakers and customs to come get your absolutely insane one-off pieces of shoes.
Absolutely, and like I said, I'll put all that stuff in. I'll put it in the show notes, and equally, I'll put it in the graphics as they go along the YouTube, so people can definitely get at them. But yeah, I mean, for me, thank you very much for your time.